One of the things I've heard you speak on, which I was so impressed with, is dreams. I think about a lot of people today, and I think a lot of people are scared to go for it. They're actually not only go for it, they're scared to just even dream in the first place. So talk to me about what that fear is about, why people should dream big, and then even how to go about it.
Well, the thing you have to understand, Josh, is the world isn't designed for you to succeed. It's designed for you to shop. So our entire world is just designed for you to shop. So people come up to me and they go, I feel distracted lately. And I'll go, yeah, you should be. Distraction technology is scaled faster than your ability to focus. Right now, there are 50, 60, 70,000 of the world's best developers who have ever lived, the best psychiatrists who have ever lived, whose main goal is your time. Their main goal is, I want your time. So you're up against this massive machine that doesn't want you to do your goals. Netflix doesn't want you to get in shape. Hulu doesn't want you to write a book. Dating apps don't want you to get married. If you get married, you break the dating apps algorithm. Their goal is you have 100 meaningless hookups. That's their goal because you stay a subscriber. They're not trying to help you have a long-term marriage. That's not their business model. So you first and foremost have to go, if the average American is watching 34 hours of TV a week right now, according to Nielsen, that time is taken from something else that matters. So it's so like the first thing you should do is go, I know why it's hard to focus. I know why I feel afraid. There's a whole industry that doesn't want me to change, that doesn't want me to grow, that doesn't want me to stay connected to my family and my dreams. And so you're up against a huge, huge machine. And I think we sometimes forget that. We sometimes lose sight of that. And so the odds are stacked against you. You have a casino in your pocket. You have a literal casino in your pocket. My kids, we were on a road trip and one of them said, I just got an ad in Instagram for this thing I wanted. And it hit me. I never saw a personalized ad my entire childhood. I never got a pocket ad my entire childhood. So it would be so condescending for me to go, I don't know why this next generation's having a hard time with like credit card debt or why they're having a hard time staying on their goals. They're up against different odds than I face. That's just the reality. Yeah. So that's part of it. And then the fear part of it is often we just haven't seen somebody do it. Like we don't even know if it's possible. Or we get inspired and try to do it too big right out of the gate and we doom ourselves to instant failure. So in the book, I talk about how we jump between the comfort zone and the chaos zone. And the comfort zone is no goals, no actions, no progress. The chaos zone is actually even more dangerous for high performers, which is too many goals, too many actions, no progress. And if you're watching this or listening to this, you're a high performer. And I know that because low performers don't engage with content like this. Yeah. So where a high performer struggles is they go from not doing anything to trying to do it all. So they go, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to lose 10 pounds. I'm going to date my spouse. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to start a podcast all this weekend. And I go, oh. And so the problem with high performers is they're the rabbit and the tortoise and the hare story. They only have two speeds, nap or sprint. Like that was the problem with the rabbit. He didn't have a middle gear. The turtle had a middle gear of little things at a time, little things at a time. I can't run tomorrow's miles today. Like I can't. Like I have to, I've done 508 miles this year running. And the crazy sucky thing about it was everyone took me mile by mile. I couldn't binge any of them. Like we live in a binge culture. Yeah. Our entire culture is trying to teach us to binge stuff. You can't binge real progress. So like learning consistency is part of it. So there's so many things like that where I think that's why people have a hard time with their dreams is that they haven't been taught how to dream. They certainly haven't been taught the right system on how to dream. And they bounce between comfort and chaos. And that's why we say yo-yo diet in our country, because you're yo-yoing between not doing anything to weighing like grams of beans. Yeah. And you're going, and there's no real progress. There's no real consistency.
It's so good. I've never heard it framed like this, but it's so true. I think that a lot of people give maybe younger millennials and Gen Z a hard time because, you're lazy.
You're always on your phone.
Weak, work ethic, all those things. But it is true that there are way more temptations. Yeah. The media and the culture generally is way more, in a way, dark. Like I had this conversation, I bring this up on occasion that like when you and I were growing up, like I would bet you watched some of the same shows of, I loved Fresh Prince of Bel-Air,
sure.
Saved by the Bell, Family Matters, Step by Step,
Growing Pains.
Growing Pains. Yeah. And like every one of those shows had this moral theme at the end, right? They made a mistake, they stole something, they gave it back. Like it was this, there's this light or story of redemption as part of the story. And I can't find that today. If you watch 99% of television, it's, well, hey, the villain, it's okay that he did that. It's justified somehow. And so I even think about those exposures over time. And so how do you think, and I'm two questions.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that personally, but also as a parent, how do you deal with it with your kids? Because it seems like parents maybe have to be even more aware and, I don't know, just intentional about how to deal with that today than they did. Because my parents were like, I got home from school and they're like, go play in the,
when the street lights come on, till the street lights come on.
Exactly.
Yep. No, so personally, I practice the things I want to be excellent at. So I practice positivity. I'm not a naturally positive person. Like, I'm naturally pretty negative. I'm pretty cynical. I'm pretty jaded. But I've tested positivity and I've tested negativity, and the ROI of positivity is so much better. I feel better. I'm more fun to be around. I sleep better. It's so much worth it. So for me, I practice positivity. So sometimes people come up to me and they'll go, John, I just feel down. I feel stuck. I feel negative. I go, well, walk me through your day. And they'll say, well, I got up and the first thing I did was get on Twitter and I check in what these idiots did last night that I disagree with. And then I went to work and I hung out with the 5 people who hate their jobs just like me. And we grumbled about our day the whole day. And then on the drive home, I listened to a podcast about a serial murderer. And then I came home and argued on Nextdoor. And then I watched a documentary on Netflix called People Who Look Like You Getting Murdered. I watched a Jeffrey Dahmer documentary. Yeah. And they go, it's so weird that I feel negative. And I go, it's not weird. It'd be like if you didn't eat for 4 days and then said, Josh, you're a doctor. I feel hungry. And you're like, well, what'd you eat today? And like, I haven't eaten in 4 days. You'd be like, I'm going to blow your mind. Like, so I practice it. So I don't try to drown, or I don't try to starve my negativity. I drown it in positivity. So when I'm running, I'm listening to positive podcasts. When I drove here, I was listening to an audiobook. Like, I wasn't casual with that time. I was like, man, I'm pretty negative by nature. I'm going to combat that to the best of my abilities. I'm going to have a list of positive things that I practice, that I do, because I want to change and I want to grow and I want to be able to teach my kids that. So that transitions to our kids. Yeah, a lot of it's just about being active. The crazy thing to me, I did a study on 5 different types of goals. It was relationship, career, finance, health, and then the last one was fun. And there were 188 goals that people recorded, and only 4 of them were relationship. So most people never have relationship goals. They think relationships will just happen organically or like jazz. And so I'm deliberate about relationship goals with my kids. So we talk about this stuff. We're engaged in this stuff. The challenge is sometimes parents act like a phone is like a bike. So when you give a kid a bike, you don't have to check in on the bike. I never have to a month later go, hey, how's the bike going? Anybody been bullying you on that bike? You seen any porn by accident on that bike? Like, you don't have to check on the bike. Yeah. A phone, you have to be engaged. Yep. A phone, you have to be kind of in constant conversation. So that's part of it. And then the other thing is that we have soundtracks. So I wrote this book called Soundtracks about mindset, like the soundtracks we listen to. So our family has soundtracks. One of our soundtracks we say is Bags of Gold Are Heavy. And we didn't come up with this one, our friend Shane did. But the theme there is that, hard work is challenging. Bags of gold are heavy. And so the other day, we were talking about that with my daughter. She had to, she was interviewing to be at a camp. She was going to be a junior counselor at a camp all summer. And the interview time was Monday at 7 a.m. Now, Monday, where we live, is late start, which means kids get to sleep in an hour later. But she didn't get to sleep in an hour later. She had to go drive to school to be there already, to get ready for the phone call and do the interview. And we said to her, way to go, McCrae. Bags are gold heavy. Yeah. Every other kid was asleep. You were out there doing it. And she ended up getting the job. And so we're trying to teach them these things in a fun way. So soundtracks is important to our family, conversations. And then when we see something that we disagree with, it becomes a lesson in a conversation. We go, hey, you know how that happened? This is why that happened. Like, one of our other soundtracks is no unforced errors. Like that, a lot of people make unforced errors, which is a tennis phrase where they hit it into the net, they hit it out of bounds. So we'll say, when we're teaching them how to drive, we'll say, hey, you could take this left across 4 lanes of traffic, or you could take a right and turn around. It'll take you 30 seconds, but take a right and turn around a lot easier. That left across 4 lanes of traffic is an unforced error. You just made life harder than it needs to be. And we'll say it's hard to watch people you love make life harder than it needs to be. So we're having conversations with our kids. And then my wife is really wise. So she'll say things like, if you want a kind 16-year-old, teach a 6-year-old kindness and give them 10 years to practice. And so we're always going, okay, we want to, I want a kind 22-year-old. I'm going to teach my 12-year-old kindness and give him 10 years of practice. We're taught, we're not raising kids, we're raising adults. So when that's your approach, you become active. It becomes a rolling, growing lesson, and that's really fun.
It's so good. It reminds me of something that I had talked about. This was a while back, but not just having a to-do list, but having a to-be list for you and for your kids.
Yeah.
Like, I want my kids to be kind. I want them to be generous, right? It's on, and you're kind of almost checking off, and whether it's a mental note or actually written down of, okay, we need to work on kindness today. We need to work on generosity today.
Yeah. And how can we encourage them in that and not think they'll do it accidentally? And then, like, as far as specific things, it's like, okay, here's the age they get a phone, or like, we ask them about things. Life 360 is on. I'll have parents go, yeah, they won't let me use Life 360 on their phone. I'm like, oh, that's amazing. He pays his own rent and pays his own phone. Like, that's what an adult. Oh, wait, you're doing that? You own that phone? No 14-year-old wants to be in charge. Yeah. There's not a 14-year-old on the planet that wants to be in charge. They feel terrified when parents aren't in charge, because they're not built to be in charge. Right. Now they'll step into that. If they recognize a vacuum in a family, a 14-year-old will be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this. And they'll start demanding things and wanting things. But no real 14-year-old wants to be in charge. They want to have some boundaries. They want to have some structure. They want to have some stability. And as a parent, it's your job to lean into that.